technical difficulties then, but we are back with you.
Laura.
With Laura.
With
Laura, do you
Laura.
want to share what just happened there?
Okay.
So, Amy, you were asking a question, weren't you? And
Yes,
what was that?
I was.
Let's
So let's say somebody out there is watching our show and they hear this and they're like, how do I get it out of that, fear porn? What steps can I take? And, because it's time. Maybe this is, it's time for that.
So as in what? So the question, how you can take someone out of that? Yes.
No, not you, but yourself. How do you take yourself out of that? Like, how did we get out of that? How did we ourselves step out of that and into more sovereignty within ourselves about all the fear porn out there?
How did you do it, Amy?
Yes.
How did you do it?
Well, I think mine started definitely with inner work for sure, right? Because we have all the programs, even since utero. So I know that working, so we get to work backwards to work forward. So you go back and you just kind of work on your beliefs and work on your programs and your patterns and just start noticing every little thing when you're in front of the TV. Why am I sitting here? Why am I watching? Like, questions, just question yourself. That was a big one for me. I questioned everything for so long of why am I doing this? Why? And then dig deeper, because the first answer is really not the first answer. It's like, but you have to be your own interrogator, kind of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's in some ways you do just switch off the TV and you go into nature.
Yes.
I mean, that's the first, most obvious one. And then the next one is be discerning about what you watch.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with taking on information, but it's staying in that sacred neutrality, as Andrew's always saying, so the information doesn't change you. You don't go into polarized positions. You don't go into voting for this party or the other party. Otherwise, you're just back in that, you're split once again.
Yeah.
You're divided. And we want to remain whole and sovereign.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it all
So I think that is a big one. And the getting out in nature just washes away so much of that.
Mm-hmm.
And nature is so much, nature is neutral, isn't it? Like that. You're not getting that anything like that. You're not getting hit with it. You're not getting bombarded by it.
And just make sure you're not listening to something in your ears. If you're trying, you can, I mean, I do now, but back then it's like, well, no, because then that's still going in if I'm in nature and I'm listening to, a podcast or
natural
whatever.
Sounds.
Yeah.
Well, it's natural sounds, isn't it? And the natural sounds are the healing sounds.
Yeah.
And the frequencies that come out of the telly and the radio and all the rest are a bit disresonant with us, aren't they?
Yeah. So it's.
I don't think that's a light worker myth, is it, Dale? I don't think they are quite the same frequencies as they should be for us.
Yeah. So watch the trickster in yourself.
and that's it.
Yeah.
All what you were all saying then is all down to choice, allowing the fear to control you, not allowing the fear to control you. Each day waking up and making that conscious choice of saying, no, I'm going to choose this way instead of that way. I'm going to drop out of the karmic ties or the karmic loops I always go into, and I'm going to start living more of a dharmic path as a dharmic warrior. And it's allowing that dharmic warrior to come out of you each day where you say, no, I'm ready to change. I'm ready to be a better person. I respect myself enough to not allow this fear to change me. And that's the inner work. It's going back and allowing yourself to what's the word? It's like what's the word? Decompress from it all. Allowing yourself to go to your own inner chamber, decompress from it. I go on the PMF mat lately every single day, probably like an hour and a half at the moment, to help me do that, because that's what I need at the moment. And it doesn't have to be a PMF mat. It can be so many different things. Flow, like Laura said, nature, but it all comes down to choice. And just notice what choices you have. And if you always see yourself falling into fear or falling into the paranoia or whatever, that again is you're just in the karmic loop. and it's about how you can get yourself out of that karmic loop into the dharmic state. And that's something I've been learning about myself, is all of these past highs of myself. I need to make the greater change to step forward even more. And it's just like with everything going on at the moment, there's just a need for the death and rebirth, the shaman's death, to happen each and every month, because the next month you might have more fear program or something may happen. So living the shaman's death daily is one of the best ways to do it.
I love that.
And what about that inner fear porn we give ourselves that you can't attribute directly to, say, global media, watching the telly or anything like that, where we've lost our parasympathetic to a program that tells us that leads to overthinking, thinking on something too much, that's leading to long-term anxiety, that's leading to paranoia, that's really disabling our lives. We do have that as well, and I've had that recently. Dale and I have been discussing that recently about mastering the parasympathetic, where the programs lie. And what we learnt from counselling, Amy, with David, about memories and emotions being held together in the subconscious. And that one will trigger another. So with my paranoia program, I had to, again, go right back, do the inner work and journal. We're always harping on about this, but, journaling does make such a difference.
It does.
So writing out to find where in my relationships did I not feel I had love before, unconditional love and so on. And that was a journey down that road. Into loving the self, and the first relationship being with yourself if you want an authentic relationship with others. And that's just a little bit. But I got into the found a real part of me that put me completely in paranoia until Andrew's helped me.
I was going through something like the same, not the same thing, but the same thing. It was like, why am I ruminating? I kept ruminating and ruminating and ruminating. It's that feeling. And I journal, and the answer came in my journal. It was like, oh my gosh, Amy, okay, we don't have to do that anymore. Like, it's okay. Like, I soothe myself. You just talk to. I love talking to myself, because it's like I have all these aspects, and we just talk about it. And I talk out loud, even when I'm writing. It's like I talk out loud because it just helps me. That's the way I do it. But I was like, whoa, that was like, because I'm the person that always wants to have the harmony, and I'm taking music lessons. So I'm learning about harmony and the melody. And it's like, I want the harmony and melody always to be together. But my inner self was saying, no, they're beautiful separate, and they're beautiful together. And I'm like, oh my gosh. It was like that. It was so simple. It sounds so simple, but to me, it was like, that's it. That's it. We can let people have their melody, and I don't need to make that my melody and harmony anymore. Like, I don't know. It was so cool. I don't know if you understand that, but
that's beautiful.
So go ahead, Amy.
No, that's fine. I have to go.
So it's the question Laura was asking, going back to that as well, is I think the first stage you can always have is recognizing the program, and that's the first part. When you recognize it and start recognizing them coming in, a lot of people are on the spiritual journey, and potentially even watching now, who don't even see some of the programs which drive them. And this is something which is like the hunt. You have to go on a hunt for yourself to really find stuff out. And sometimes like situations can bring up paranoia or anxiety, and it's about really finding out where that's from, doing the work for it. But the first stage is owning it, owning what it is, and not beating yourself up about it.
It's funny because I said it to Andrew, and I kept saying it creeps in, this program, it creeps in as if it was something external. And he said, supposing it's already there, supposing it's internal. And of course, so many of these things are, because they're traumas that we've taken on since childhood or generational stuff, isn't it? That's in our DNA. So I guess it's wherever it's come from, is how we are going to deal with it.
Yep.
How are we going to claim our sovereignty back?
Yep.
How are we going to oust that fear? And that just takes commitment and courage and doing the journey of the inner work.
Yeah. Effort,
Yes.
commitment, courage,
Yeah.
journey. Ah.
And that courage is so fucking important in your journey, to have that courageous courage of going forward, because there's times, like even my journey, I think 8 years ago, where I had programs or anxiety or anything like that, which defeated me so many times, until the point where I just kept going with my work, kept going with my journey. They started falling down until the point where the anxiety didn't run me anymore. I obviously get anxious because I'm a human being. I mainly get anxious when I get projections stuck into me. That's the main time I feel anything weird. But I used to have issues with social anxiety, all sorts of different things. But listening to Andrew and going through the inner work, doing the year by year, going out socializing all the time, I actually was able to break it. And I remember looking into the past and thinking, wow, look what I fucking done here. Like, look at me go. Like, looking at that person 7 years ago to who I am now, and like, I never thought I'd be able to change like this, and I have. And that the courage and discipline, and yeah, it's so important.
And the victory in that, though, Dale, the victory, like celebrate those victories, even the little ones.
Yes.
You know?
And I think with every growth, you have to make sure you change something in your surroundings. I know when we've been away on combined therapies, before I come home, I realise that I'm coming home to different energies that I left. Because doing combined therapies, whether you're a client or practitioner, just lifts your frequency. Yeah, it just raises your frequency incredibly. And I know I'm not the same being coming back to those energies, and some of those energies would have contained, some sort of fear, some sort of anxiety. So I always send the precogs ahead, right from when the key goes in the front door, all the way through all the different, putting the kettle on, coming in, unpacking, telling the house that I've changed frequency and that I want to dismantle the old frequencies and fill where I live with my new frequency.
I love that.
And then the old fear programs have less room to be able to come back in, because we're changing, ever evolving beings. I mean, that's the aim anyway, isn't it? We're trying to grow all the time, and you can't grow if you keep taking yourself back to any stagnation, any place where you're stuck in a fight or flight mode, or freeze, anywhere the adrenaline energies are.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I got to run, guys, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye,
so
everybody.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah, really good to see you. Thank you for coming on to the 2 shows.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Where is she here?
Bye.
I know you're the same, Dale. I can speak to you with this. I have made a commitment to grow. I have made a commitment to offer my contribution in service to light. I have made a commitment to bring back the indigenous teachings, because I know somewhere that's in my soul DNA. It's in all of us. That's why we're here now. I've made a commitment to Earth Mother. I've made a commitment to my fellow beings and those who are on the same path as me, like you, that I will do my great work. And if I'm going to let every little piece of global narrative fear porn affect me, it's going to affect my growth. And I don't want that, because I've worked, like you, I've worked hard. I've put in that commitment to be where I am now. And I want to do even more in the future that helps people find their own sovereignty and so on. I want to teach that. And I just cannot allow myself to get pulled into anything that resembles something that will divide and conquer me, that will ask me to go into zealotry, that will ask me to take one side or the other. Patriotism, wars, voting, all of that, all of the system setups that take your life force, take your energy, and I want to give that to the earth. I want to be in co-creation with the earth. That's how you get out of it. That's how you get out of the fear porn. Decide that you're going to co-create with Earth Mother, whether it's a walk or a ceremonial fire.
I'm getting tears in my eyes for that, Laura. That was beautiful.
Yeah, because it's from the
Yeah,
heart.
it
Like
is.
when you speak,
Yes.
it's from the heart.
And that's it. And going back to when you were talking there, it reminded me of how important prayer is. And this is something connecting to allowing to disengage from the fear. Prayer is one of the most important things you can possibly do. Like, it is so vitally important that you remind yourself each day why you're here, what you're doing, who you are, with the out loud name it to claim it system. That reminded me of that and how important prayer is for me now, and it has been in the past when I've been stuck or I've been lost, to help me navigate myself back to the roadmap of the remembering of who we truly are. And all of these times of forgotten, of listening to the news, going into fear, it's allowing ourselves to come back home to who we are again, and making that application each day at a time, not taking things so seriously in life. Try not to get triggered by certain things and people's energy, or people saying certain things to you. Don't allow it to trigger you. Just listen. You don't have to agree, you don't have to disagree, but just listening is important. And each day growing better and better as a human. And it is scary at times. Like, fear for me, I have fear sometimes about how much I'm changing. Some parts of me are in fear about it, because I'm like, I'm changing so much. And then
Yeah.
my highest each year, and I'm like, then there's a part of me like, holy fuck, I don't want to change. Like, yeah, I'm fucking changing, bitch.
Yes.
We're going this
Yes.
way.
Yes. I know that feeling. It's like I feel I can't touch or feel energetically that person I was, say, 10 years ago. And yet 10 years ago, and I really started listening to Andrew and started doing all the basic spiritual things. And it did give me a lot of joy. And I was thinking, well, I've lost touch with that person. And then I realized that isn't negative that I've lost touch with that person. That's growth. Because also along with the early me was all the meek me's and all the other things that went to hug a Karen,
Yes.
you know? So that that has been a big shift and a big change for me. But it's anybody who buys into any form of the fear porn that's out there, and we've named so many of them now, it's that famous question, how is that working for you? How is that aiding your growth? How is that giving you joy in your life? And it doesn't mean burying your head in the sand, ignoring what's going on either. You can be aware, but still stay neutral and still stay grounded to the earth, enjoying nature, and then you're carrying a better energy. And if you're going to carry that higher frequency energy, that's going to have a knock-on effect on the people around you. And then we start to raise consciousness, and then we start to lower the fear porn meter. That's how it works, isn't it? You don't battle fear porn, do you, Dale?
Yes. No, you don't. You don't battle against it, but you outcreate it. And that's the best thing you can possibly do, is outcreating it each day, not
Yes,
allowing it to have
outcreate.
relevance
Yeah,
within our lives, knowing we
yeah,
have a choice. And it all comes down to that simple word again: choice, choice, choice. And I made mistakes. I've made a lot of mistake choices, and it's about allowing those mistakes to be mistakes. And again, not
yeah.
beating ourselves up about it. Many times Andrew has told me, don't beat myself up about it, which I already started doing. So I've got to remind myself that just subtle things going on.
Yeah, flush the fear porn down the loo. Put it
Yes,
out with the garbage. The only way it's relative to your growth is what it's showing you. You shouldn't be
yes. So,
showing you how much you're controlled if you're believing it.
so why don't we go into the revocation then, Laura? It seems like a perfect time to go into the revocation you brought.
Mm. Yeah, sure. Okay. Revocation of fear porn. I, in this ever-present moment of now, call upon Great Mystery and Great Spirit to remind me of who I am, what I am, and why I dream this dream. I call upon Earth Mother to remind me of my organic natural evolution and of equal energy exchange in dominion with her. I call upon the universe, my galactic brothers and sisters, to remind me of my multidimensionality and the inherent potency of being an infinite being of unlimited point of view. I call upon Grandfather Sun to remind me of my true source connection. I call upon the ancestors to remind me of the mantle of responsibility I took up when I chose to awaken and remember my true potential, carrying that torch of eldership so the future generations would have a path to peace. I call upon the four winds to disentangle me from the static white noise of the mainstream media content of alarm spewed out relentlessly to suppress our natural joy. And I call upon Great Eagle of the East to show me the higher perspective of all things. Great Spirit, I recognize that many people do not take the time out from their chaotic lives to examine the hooks that keep them attached to whatever it is that forms their current reality of life. These hooks are held in place by a mass hypnosis, by the global narrative with its mass obedience to an ideological way of existence that many have never questioned for validity. I take my stand now as a multidimensional photonic being of light, awake and aware that I was born under Earth Mother's natural laws with sovereignty as my birthright. And with this heart-mind voice, I revoke the hidden hand of corruption and deception that entices us to buy into any fear that promotes long-term panic or anxiety. I revoke the force feeding by the world news and media of misrepresentation of world events. For this is not a signature frequency match to my authenticity. I revoke any of the great societal structures of government, finance, education, religion, and healthcare that are not fit for purpose or do not align with our own moral codes. Your complete lack of transparency and accountability only remains largely unexamined by a society that maintains your very existence. Because you have pulled the wool over our collective eyes for so long, most of us have grown accustomed to this shallow and fraudulent existence. I strongly revoke any timeline in which I sold out my authentic self and accepted the values laid down for me by a self-serving system. I revoke your deception at the highest level. I choose to remember the whole concept and marvel of who I am, my own self-belief and singular joy I attained as a child. I undo all the energies that attempted to systematically wipe out my joy of childhood in stages from birth. I choose to recognize my authentic self as a being distinct from the archetypes the mass media promotes. I reject all times I've been misidentified at being at one with globalism and allowed myself to become blended into mediocrity. I reject all times I've forgotten I have a choice. I reject all times I've allowed myself to be made small and ineffectual on a world stage where you, the directors, have all the say, and we as actors must memorize and repeat verbatim our lines, and to go ad lib will cost us our acting role. I reject your assumption that you can write all the seams to form an entire play and continue to use the lines from old plays you wrote for us to perform eons ago to align with your slavery system. I revoke every time I turned up to the audition, cap in hand, because I was in survival to play out the same old scenes day in, day out. I fully recognize the only reason we appear to be in survival is because you wrote that in the script too. I fully revoke all the times I bought into this deception wholesale and stepped forward unwittingly enthusiastic to play my part. I now choose my own role this lifetime and revoke all times I didn't check the contract before I came to the auditions. I revoke all times when, in awareness or unawareness, I didn't read the small print because I was unaware that they could only be read with the opera glasses that you don't get until you're ready for a different perspective of being the observer of your own life. I revoke all the times I took everything at face value without investigation, not realizing that when we live in such a layered reality, that so much more lies beneath that exterior that's presented to us. And lies is the truthful word in the context of the system. We've been lied to over and over again by a system desperate to stay in control. I now dig deep beneath the layers of corruption for real meaning. I reject your tools of hypnosis and the energetics infused into them, and I make a sovereign choice to escape the superficial fear concepts the system uses that's thrown at us at every turn of the newspaper page, every turn of the street corner, every turn of the TV channel. There's a vacuous distraction into fear that can take over our psyche, so deep thinking and connecting to our own heart mind can never get any momentum. I hereby engage heart-mind to keep me out of the mindless distraction and insidious indoctrination of the system of domination and control. I choose to do an about turn and walk the other way, back to find myself in that heart connection. We've got ourselves lost and wrapped up in superficiality and fear, giving us little in mind, body and spiritual nourishment, but just enough for survival in an ever-competitive, joyless world. We're not meant to be joyless. We're meant to be living the full experience of life in any way we choose that doesn't knowingly negate another's path. And the only way to do this is to unhook from that setup. So I hereby unhypnotize myself and exit stage left, leaving your hollow stage with the stuck-on facade that's supposed to represent our lives. I revoke all co-opted conspiracy theories that create a hypnosis of fear equally as unbalanced as the very deceit they're trying to expose. I unhook from both of these extremes and revoke the use of these polarizations creating zealotry. I revoke all your co-opting and hijacking the conspiracy movement with the aim of encouraging seekers of truth into zealotry and therefore distraction. And I reject your weaponized information trying to pervert and put fear into any promising swathe of potential planet game changers with the aim of diversion into eventually losing their minds in the endless quest for a moving truth. I reject your social media memes on getting out of chaos to live a more meaningful life, deliberately missing the point that it's not about escape or running to the hills, so much as finding our authentic self, our sovereignty, our true heart connection we had as children. So we can unhook without having to run away. We can metaphorically leave the stage, yet physically exist in the same space, but with a different attitude, a shifted perspective. A role change beyond a change of costumes and persona, but one that gives us the backdrop to make our own decisions for ourselves based on our own heart-based awareness. This is a learned perspective which requires unlearning what we've been taught. We've been taught to rely on our systems, our infrastructures, our governments, our bosses to make the best decisions for us, even to think for us. And we're fearful of making our own decisions. Yet we're the one who knows best, who knows ourselves best. This doesn't mean these infrastructures don't have a place in our lives, but we get to decide their level of influence. So with this revocation, I take back control without fighting your proxy wars and getting drawn into patriotism. I recognise our only battle will be with any part of us that wants to give away our sovereign power to another, be it for comfort, conditioning, or an easy life. I know true authenticity starts with cognition of the completeness and fullness of who I am. I am mind, body, heart and soul walking the earth, and I have a right to be here now, and various rites of passage separate of the system that aid my evolution without the fearporn bombs diverting my path. I free myself from all divide and conquer schemes you promote via religion, government, voting, TV, climate change and weather, to name a few. Every day, at some level, we have to sacrifice some of our own closely held beliefs simply to exist in this world. Are we able to do this, yet retain our authenticity? It is possible. It's about being conscious. It's having awareness and bringing the contents of our lives into consciousness and examining them for relevance. Is this belief I have still serving me, or is it riddled with a fear that's not real? Recognize the level of influence that is projected on you to conform to another's ideals or way of living. Check out your own psychological weaknesses, where that influence seeps in your unawareness. Once you've acknowledged this, you're some way free. Being fully free is not just a perception, but an action of self-control, responsibility to the self to not fall back into the conditioning or behavior patterns, not giving those programs any head or body space to come back in and run your life. It takes full awareness to stop these on their well-worn tracks. A self-interrogation. Is that really my thought, my values, or someone else's? Does this really align with my beliefs? Is this just another subliminal use of fear? So I hereby work on developing a fully realized selfhood and self-mastery that is receptive to an unlimited universe that offers me choices. I acknowledge myself. I define me as being immune from the paranoia of fear porn that limits self-growth. No system, person, job, family, friends can define me unless I allow it. Even the universe doesn't define me, but gives me free will to define myself. We all hold inner truths based on our beliefs. These will change as we grow and learn, but they are ours. They don't have to align with anyone else's, but they don't have to be based in fear either. We are the director of our own lives, our performance on this stage of life. So I strut my stuff with heart-spaced awareness and my moral compass without apology, and step up and claim my role, write my own lines, my own story, free of fear, for I get to decide. No longer the understudy, no longer ruled by fear. Aho.
Oh, wow, that was beautiful. Powerful, powerful.
Good.
Woo. Wow, thank you for that.
That's okay. A lot of energy shifts there.
It is. Standing wave there. It was beautiful. How was that? So, people in the chat, how was that for you listening to that and observing that? What did it do for you? If you'd like to share your experience in the chat, that would be great. How did you feel reading that, Laura?
Good. Some of it I've written before as unhypnotize yourself.
Yes.
But I just added to it because it seemed to fit. I haven't written a revocation for a long time, probably not since we got banned with doomers and gloomers.
So if you're all aware, so the last revocation, Laura, we had a Doomer and Gloomer show a while back, and Laura did a revocation just for the Doomer and Gloomers, and we got striked on YouTube for it, and the video got taken down. So hopefully this won't.
It was fun though.
Revocation. Yes, it was. It was really, really
fun. Yeah, and the Karen revocation as well. Yes, yes.
Wow, what a show so far! What a show! Like, really,
I've no idea how long we've been on because this is our second time of coming on.
Yes, so, we had a bit of a break. We had a popcorn break.
I don't know how long the first half was before we had the adverts in the middle.
So let's have a look into some people on the chat and what they've been saying lately. We have Judith. I started doing this where I forget something to make a mistake. I look at my dog and say, why don't you remind me? And why do you let me do that? And it immediately makes me laugh and diverts. I believe that's when we were talking about seeing the programs for what they are. Yes, you've got to have that ha-ha moment and laugh at yourself. You really do.
Yeah, you do.
So, there we go. So, where can we go for the last part of the show, Laura? So, we've talked about programs, we've talked about fear. So, what could we do to help people moving forward with fear on everyday lives? So, we've gone about choice, we've gone about sovereignty. Is there anything else we could do?
Well, we've talked about what you can do in your everyday life. And it's up to individual people to make that choice and to make themselves aware of what they're taking on to align with, and does it really align with their beliefs?
That's it. Does it align with your beliefs? And what we talked about earlier was great, where you said everyone's belief system is so different, and we've got to appreciate that and respect that And even people who fall into fear all the time, we've got to have forgiveness for them, and we've got to not judge them as well. And that's something I have to do, seeing my mum or seeing my family members always talking about the fear and the doom and gloom. I have to not allow that energy to change me as well, because you can go into fear from people in fear.
Just don't get drawn in. You can stay neutral and still have friends.
Yes, you can.
I do.
And remember to be human as well. And that's very important. Remind myself to be human. Have fun with the muggles. I love that word, muggles.
Yes. Yeah. And always we reach for joy, which is what we were talking about prayers earlier. But always reach for the joy to outcreate that fear.
Yes. And if you need help as well, going to see someone who does a session or someone who can help you look and kind of find a way for you to get out of that fear mode. The amount of times and sessions I've done where it's just all about them seeing the unlimited point of view again, finding inspiration, finding joy, coming out the session saying, yes, I'm ready to change now. I feel light enough to make changes within myself. So ask for help. So if you find yourself in fear and you're struggling, don't be a light worker who doesn't get sessions. Go see someone. It doesn't have to be us. It could be anybody. Someone who can actually look at you from another perspective and give you counseling and guidance. That's so important to disentangle from fear.
Shift your energies by getting a massage, anything, craniosacral therapy. Much of the fear is actually attached also to old traumas. So getting some form of trauma release, a therapy that helps you with your trauma release too. Or come to combined healing therapies with us.
How can combined disentangle you, Laura?
Yes, it does disentangle you, doesn't it?
So, guys, what I think we'll do, we're going to call this an end to the show. I know we've cut short a little bit, but I feel like we've got everything in and it's been amazing. So, Laura Massey, how can people get a hold of you for your skills? Laura, I'm frozen. Massey is back again. Hopefully, she'll end the show this time. So, if you'd like to have a session with Laura, her email's just below there. She also, if you're interested in coming on the combined therapy as well, drop Laura an email at laura2feathers@gmail.com. And also, just a reminder as well, Andrew has a mentorship coming up. And Joel has got have you got the poster to put on? Just going to find the poster which has the dates on. There we go. So Andrew has a mentorship coming up in April. So level 1 for level 2 as well. Me personally, I've been on the mentorship and it's completely changed my perspective. And each time Andrew has some nuggets and new teachings available. So if you'd like to elevate your own journey and have time and private sessions with the Galactic Historian, head over to sign up for the April mentorship. And so for myself, if you'd like to have a soul audit session, if you'd like me to look into your soul and see what's blocking you, if you need some help detaching from fear as well, head over to daletobin.com. I'm also doing a Psychic Surgery 1 available as a product. So if you'd like to learn the skills of how to start working on yourself, how to regularly clear yourself out of fear, projections, and so on, the Psychic Surgery 1 is available to buy as a product. I'm also offering half an hour free session with buying the product as well. So afterwards, you'll have time with myself privately. So yeah, thank you everyone for listening. And for those on all of the YouTube channels, Rumble, please drop us a like, a comment, and subscribe, because that really does help us with the algorithm. And we all appreciate your support. Thank you.